21st day of September 2025. My name is Kurt, and this is my daily Good Life meditation. A live video exercise that I do every day at right around 5:30 a.m. from here in Japan. I do this to remember my life objectives and principles, those which are outlined in my book, Going Alone, which you can read for free at goingalone.org. I also use the time to think about the last 24 hours and how I did with any noteworthy challenges or opportunities that I met. I go over my creed and I prepare for the coming day. But first, a quick check of the weather. It's on this drizzly morning. It's 24 degrees and 84% humidity. 84%. How's the weather? How's the temp and humidity where you are? This is a personal journal, but it's publicly done. So you're welcome to look over my shoulder as I talk, as it's my own journal entry. I'm at liberty to talk about anything I want for as long as I want. You can leave comments and criticisms. I'll keep an eye out for any initial comments to see if anybody has any important messages for me, like the audio isn't working. And once I move on from there, I'll just carry on. I'll read and respond to comments at the end. This is a video where I sometimes talk about sensitive subjects like death. So heads up if you're sensitive to that. And a huge thank you to those who watch my videos, my supporters on Patreon, and my members on YouTube. I really do appreciate your support, which I'm going to be making very good use of soon now that my doggy trailer cart thing has run, and I have to do a little repair on it. But soon I'll be, with the weather cooling down, ready to begin going out into the community and enjoying Japan at large. Can't wait, and thank you for your support in that capacity. All right, so as for the last 24 hours, according to my notebook, I have just one entry here: steady, stable day. Now, my entries sometimes record anecdotes of things that happened, where I can illustrate how I'm applying my values successfully or not to the various circumstances of life, or sometimes I just kind of comment on the general atmosphere of things. This note is, of course, the latter. A simple, steady, stable day. Nothing really happened yesterday that challenged me in any way. It was a pretty straightforward day, especially given the fact that my sister-in-law, Yoko, drove to, we went on an outing in the afternoon. She drove, so I just got to sit there like a kid, with my camera, looking out the window. It was a lot of fun. As such, I don't really have anything to report. Pretty simple day. Then moving on then. And I like days like that. But just to let you know, we did have fun. I might as well add a little color to that. In the morning, we pretty much spent here. In the afternoon, we went to a beautiful green tea cafe, like a matcha traditional tea house in downtown Shizuoka, but it was a new building. I've only been there a couple of years, built in the architecture of a traditional Japanese tea house. We had such a splendid time. If you want to have a look at this, at the Retiring in Japan upload that's going to go up in about an hour after this video, you can see the inside of that tea house. It was quite nice. As for my creed, the creed consists of the following 8 objectives, again from the book. 1, to be always ready to die. 2, to make good and effective use of my time. 3, to develop and maintain good and sound life principles. 4, to cultivate good emotional reactions. 5, to perform good actions relative to my creed. Oh, speaking of which, a little note on that one. You may remember that last week I spent 2 days in the morning before my surgery helping out with the chestnut harvest for a neighbor's chestnut farm just down the road. I didn't really know who owned the farm. I'd seen the farm there for decades, but I didn't know who owned it. But I learned it's the old woman who owns, you can't see it, but immediately behind that white house right there, there's a beautiful old farmhouse there. It's been there for a long time. Big farm compound with land, and even had a water wheel out in front and a channel of water coming down. Long empty, beautifully maintained though. And it belongs to an old woman. And she's too old now to do the harvest, and I guess she has nobody left in her family to help. So we all chipped in. Good deed. objective number 5, right? Performing good deeds, doing good things relative to my values, making the world a better place, reducing suffering, increasing the level of virtue in the world, where virtue is simply defined as results, efforts, and decisions that result in the improved well-being of thinking creatures. Anyway, the chestnuts that we harvested for her appeared at the roadside stand beside her house, again, long empty, for sale. So earned the woman a tidy little sum. Felt good to help out in that way, and also breathe a little bit of life to the farmhouse. So that's that little anecdote example of fulfilling objective number 5. It doesn't have to be volunteer work, objective number 5. It just has to be doing things that, making decisions, performing actions that are in alignment with the values prescribed in my book. Number 6 is to recognize my true limits and true opportunities, so I know what is and what is not within my scope of control or activity. Number 7 is to do just one thing at a time. Do that thing slowly, deliberately, and carefully. I like to have a cadence of life if I can. And number 8 is balance, which comes of the effort of attaining the first 7 objectives. Balance is the natural yielding result. As for today's principle, I'm going to read The Uphill Climb, page 272 of the hardbound edition, principle number 31 of 35, so closing in on the end. The uphill climb is nothing more than exactly what it sounds like, reminding myself that life so often requires and so often is yielded the best results if we endeavor towards the uphill climb. The sub-principle here is the open ocean swim. Have you noticed, if you've watched enough of these, that so often my principles that involve endeavoring, that involve some sort of an exercise in momentum or action, are attended and illustrated by sub-principles or complementary sibling principles, or just examples relative to swimming in the ocean. Here we go again, the open ocean swim. So I have this in 2 paragraphs, this principle, and it's because initially I wrote it the first paragraph, and then later I was out swimming in the ocean in Huntington Beach, California, and I realized that I was struggling in the rough seas, and I realized that that was analogous to the uphill climb. Let's read both paragraphs. The uphill climb, sub-principle, the open ocean swim. I will rise each morning and turn my attention to the uphill grade, to the slope which leads up, to the path which resists my climb, yet yields ever-widening horizons with each step forward. I will move forward and up. I will rarely stop, and I will never willingly go back or even cast a longing backwards glance at the places I've been and have left behind. That's a very important sub-theme in my life, is to not be making longing backward glances at anything or anyone, but to be always in a state like Stilbo the Stoic, of readiness, having all my goods with me. The next paragraph, this is where the swim part comes in. Another way to look at this is from the perspective of my life by the sea, where sometimes I slip alone into the ocean to swim far out to deep water, and then along the shore. The water is deep out there, and the waves incessant, pushing me now up and then back and over and across as I make my best line along the distant shore. No matter how the sea might rock or jostle my body, I carry on. I keep swimming, and when a larger wave foils my attempt to take in a breath of air, filling my mouth instead with salt seawater, I only sputter and spit and yet carry on. I swim through the sea with a steady resolve, apathetic to the sea, while nevertheless engaged upon and within it. This is the uphill and steady climb forward. This is the open ocean swim. Probably, if I'd thought about it before I wrote down the principle as the uphill climb, I would have called it the open ocean swim. Yet, the uphill climb has an immediate resonance with nearly anybody who's striven or endeavored at anything in life. The open ocean swim is a less familiar anecdote and example, so I probably am better that I did what I did. All right, for today, I have my only note for today is a steady, stable day. It's a Sunday. We're going to go to the flea market today. It's interesting now that my business is stopped. I I go to the flea market, but I don't look with eyes towards buying anything for anybody else anymore. I look with eyes towards what would I enjoy having in my home, which is probably the best eye I should have had all along. So it's fun to be able to do that again. And that's it for today. Again, with the temperature, let's see if it's changed at all in the last 10 minutes. 24.5 degrees. It's risen half a degree and remains at 84% humidity. Let's read comments. Hello, Michael Littlejohn. Good morning to you. Hello, Tim. Good morning. Weather check from the UK at 9:34 p.m. is 10.9 C and 97% humidity. Mild, wet day. Some torrential rainstorms this evening. Wow. 10.9 and 97. Wow, that's kind of muggy, huh? Hello, Julie. Good afternoon to you, Julie. Evelyn, nice to be the passenger. No backseat drivers. Yeah, no kidding. Yumiko caught me doing that the other day and called it out even in a video. Yeah, that's right, and I don't have any backseat drivers. Claude says, greetings from El Paso. Hello, Claude. Greetings from El Paso. Watching for the 5 plus times. Okay, well, what? Okuri Baito departures. Not sure what that means. Are you watching a movie or a series for the 5th time, maybe? Tim says, watching your museum visit. What a great place. Impressive building. Tim, I wonder if you can see it from here. It's literally right past those trees is where the museum is. That whole, if you go, this is the Valley of Tea, Yada here. And if you climb up that hill, that's the whole valley slope up there is the museum, the prefectural, which is the state park, the state museum, including the permanent Rodin wing, and the state library is all up there. It's incredibly beautiful parklands, and the state university is all up there. And so that's where we walk our dogs every day, 3 times a day. We take them out here, walk them up there, and go all around. So yeah, thanks for watching the video. I appreciate that, Tim. Julie says, seems like a really interesting neighborhood to end up living in. You know, Julie, we've got really lucky living here. When my family first started living here, my wife's family, 400 years ago, the only big selling feature was the relatively gentle little river here and this flat land here, which became good farmland, and the relative proximity to both the old Tokaido Highway, which is the famous old road that connects Kyoto with Edo, which is now Tokyo, which is just down there. My wife's uncle's house is right on the old Tokaido Highway, and it's only a short distance to downtown Shizuoka and another short distance to the harbor at Shimizu. So logistically, it's a very favorable location. Plus, it has a very mild climate. Now, in latter days, the last 30 years or so, it's become, like, my wife calls it the Beverly Hills of Shizuoka. It's like, this is where all the doctors and the dentists and the very successful people in Shizuoka want to live here. It's like what is it called? The Roppongi Hills of Shizuoka. So the fact that Yumiko and I were able to buy a house here was an amazing thing. A dream come true. We didn't think that we would have any chance of buying a house in this community, and yet here we are. So yeah, pretty amazing. Well, all right. Well, thanks for joining me today, everybody. I'll sign off for now, and I hope that it worked out better. I started this video first. Hopefully notifications went out. I'm going to do the Retiring in Japan video next. And if you have a chance, it's a good one today. We had a really nice visit to a beautiful tea house yesterday afternoon, which I think was the documentation of that experience came out very well in the video. Tim says, I think what would appeal to me most living there is the low crime rate, which I imagine is pretty low. Yeah, it is. We don't lock our door except at night when we go to bed, but crime rate is very low. Although there is some, but it's very, very low. Here in this area, and probably most of Japan, Tim, the main type of crime you have to worry about is these scammers that uh, they like call you up with their scams. They're like psychological scams, especially targeting the elderly. There's real estate scammers that will like scam you out of your real estate. I mean, it's pretty scary stuff. If you want to see an interesting show, there's a show on Netflix called, I think it's literally called Tokyo Scammers, and it's very well done. Well, it only came out I think last year, and it's about one of these real estate scam gangs operating in Tokyo, fleecing. What they do is they fleece relatively greedy people out of their money, right? Those who are not willing to go through all the normal hoops in a real estate transaction, they do perform their due diligence. They take advantage of the loopholes of those who want to do that, and it's very good drama. I think it's called Tokyo Scammers. It'll kind of eye open you. That's the kind of, you don't have to worry about anybody mugging you on the street here, but you do have to worry about who shows up at your door and who calls your elderly mother in the middle of the day claiming it's you and they need money to get them out of a situation. Tim says, yes, I've heard of that, especially in Tokyo. Yeah, don't have, not so much here, but here in Shizuoka, Shizuoka literally means, the word Shizuoka means peaceful mountain. This is a very peaceful place. But check out the Tokyo Scammers. I think if you like Japanese dramas, Tokyo Scammers is fantastic. Sanctuary is fantastic. If you want to really just a really happy drama that you want to watch just to make you smile, watch the Makanai. It's a very, very happy story. Tim says, I was thinking more street crime prevalent here in the UK. Ah, yeah, I hear that. It's the same in the United States where I'm from as well, but you really don't have to worry about it too much here. Although I will tell you a story, quick anecdote that I was reminded of yesterday. Quick story about that. I was thinking about how lucky I got that this didn't go the bad way. Before I went to Japan, before I went back to America this last time, I lived in this same community in an apartment just down here. And I was walking one day in September, right up there, literally right up there on that ridgeline, on a lonesome little path through the parklands up there. Now, one of the things that's about this parkland that worries me sometimes is it's a big, vast area and lots of lonely trails. And women are up there walking by themselves all the time. It's like, wow. Anyway, you see where this is headed, right? One day, I was walking down the trail. And I came upon suddenly, and September is the time when these big, giant orb-weaving spiders, they get really big, the big spiders, they're not the huntsman spiders, but they're big orb-weaving spiders. They make these enormous spider webs. If you see me walking the trail through my bamboo forest out to the garden and I brushing the webs away, that's what it is, giant spiders. And I came upon, in the middle of the trail, it was early in the morning, like now, an enormous web that a spider had built in the middle of the night. And right in my face, and the spider was right in the middle. And I'm like, ah, crap. So I was looking for a stick because I wanted to break the web because I knew what would happen. Someone would run into it right into their face. And as I was looking for a stick, a young woman, college-age young woman with beautiful long hair, came walking up the path. And I was looking for a stick and hoping to break the web in time to get to it before she got to where I was. Now, it's just she and I in the woods on a lonely path. And she comes around and there's a foreigner loitering. She didn't know what I was looking for, a stick, loitering in this lonesome place. And she did this. And as she came walking up, and I couldn't find a stick, I wanted to stop her. And I said, "Chotto matte kudasai," which means, just a moment, please. She let out a scream at the top of her lungs. She went down to her knees, put her hands over her head like this, down on the ground, like I was an attacker, like I was, a molester or something like that, screaming at the top of her lungs. And it's just the two of us right there. She's right there in front of the web. And of course, me with my terrible Japanese, I'm like, yeah, daijoubu desu, everything's okay. And I got my words wrong. The Japanese word for spider is kumo. The Japanese word for bear is kuma. It's very similar. I said, kuma, kuma aru, oki no kuma, a big. I said, there's a bear, there's a giant bear. I'm pointing right there in the air. She's like, what? She stopped screaming. She's like, what's this foreigner talking about a bear? And she looks up where I'm pointing and sees the big spider, and she like realized, oh, spider, kuma. She's, oh. And she stops and she slowly starts to stand up, straightens her skirt, and I kind of break the web with my arm, and the spider scurries away. And I says, "Gomennasai," and I was like, "I'm sorry, I scared you, but I just didn't want you to have a face full of web and spider." And we went our separate ways. But I was thinking about that yesterday because I was walking on that same trail, and I was thinking how bad that could have gone, right? I mean, what if there's a giant hornet right there? Right there. Do you see it? Can you imagine how bad that might have gone if we hadn't straightened that up and she'd gone to the police and said she'd been accosted by a foreigner in the parkland woods? I mean, that could have cost me my residency. I could have gone to jail. You know, this Japanese take this stuff really seriously. Anyway, I was thinking about that yesterday, so it's funny that it's interesting that came up. There's the hornet again. Tim says, I was thinking more of this. Oh, yeah, okay. Claude, when it says a Japanese film. Oh, you were talking about a Japanese film that you really like. I see. Departures. Oh, I saw the Makanai. I really liked it. Wasn't it great? Wasn't that just a feel-good, happy movie? Although at the same time, the father in me was like, darn, because they didn't even finish high school, right? The girls, you know, dropped out of high school to go do that, and I was like, you know, if I was as a father of me, I'm like, at least finish high school. Tim says, oh no, that sounded a little awkward. Did she get posters made of you to go up around the town to stay avoid this guy? No, fortunately, that had if not a happy ending, at least an understood ending, right? But it was kind of scary for both of us. All right, now the dragonflies are here. The hornet, that's the second visit of probably the same hornet. All right, everybody, thanks for joining me today. I wish you all the best. Tim, stay safe in that storm. Everybody, I hope you all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.